shaking, episode 132, Golden Mike Live with your boy, Marc Cordon. We got a good one today, right? Because most people think that if you want to find this, like, full-on self-actualized, self-balanced life, you got to go to the top of a mountain and you got to ohm it out. You got to ohm it out. But, like, our guest today says something contrary to that. We don't have to do those things. Our guest today is, and I lost it. I absolutely lost my notes with you. Our
That's okay.
guest today is a nutrition coach. She is also the. Oh my gosh! I can't believe I just wrote it down and I messed it up. She is also the founder of Nutrition in Motion, and also the author of an amazing book. I know you got that book around you. There you go.
There it is.
Author of the book Messages of Love and Inspiration for Every Moment. Please welcome our guest, Joanna Chodorowska.
Hoteraska, you got it.
Joanna, how are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. It is my birthday, and I'm celebrating. It is, and I'm wearing my favorite color, purple.
Amazing.
That's why the book cover is purple. That's why my business cards are purple. That's why, my whole office should be purple, but it's not.
Well, if I knew, I would have changed my hair color to purple today. So
I'm still working on that. I should actually put some purple locks in it, and maybe I'll do that later today or something, just for fun.
Oh, it's amazing. So we're going to be talking not only about sort of that balance, but that idea of nutrition. And we were talking before this, and you kind of got this major woo to you. You got some woo in you.
I got a lot of woo in me, and that's something that I actually wrote an article for Dr. Veronica Anderson. I'm not sure if you know her, but she's also a medical intuitive, and I wrote an article for her about the challenges of business. And one of my biggest challenges, probably for the last 3 or 4 years, was nutrition was over here because, people are linear thinkers, so they've got to be talking about the practical science side. And then there's this whole spiritual side, which is really all about faith and belief and, believing in this greater thing that's not really outside of us, it's actually inside of us. And then trying to put those together.
I think that you get into that whole idea why we don't need to go to the top of a mountain if you're beginning to imply that it's inside of us.
Well, it is inside of us. And you had a guest a couple of weeks ago that was talking all about that. Remember, only love is real, but that love is inside of us. And so many of us are looking for God out there. Well, he's not out there; he's in here. But a lot of my struggle was to actually put the spiritual into the nutrition, and I do a lot of work with athletes too, and I'm now starting to meet more of those that they're reconnecting to God. They have a spiritual foundation, and it's like and if they're not having it, then I actually help them to redevelop it and reconnect it.
I want to talk a little bit more about, not a little bit, I want to talk a lot more
about
that in this interview. Reconnecting with athletes, going more spiritual on us. What's happening? Dogs and cats living in harmony.
Dogs and cats always live in harmony. What are you talking about? There's unconditional love in the animal kingdom.
Ghostbusters. If you haven't met me, my name is Marc Cordon, founder of Make Money Coaching, chief disruptive officer of the Joy Revolution. But more importantly, I'm a positive psychology coach, which means on a daily basis I get to ask myself, my friends, and today Joanna, 2 questions. And the questions are this. Today, how happy are you feeling? And then the second question is, today, how much do you feel like you're living in your full purpose?
You want me to answer both of those one after the other?
I want you to answer them one after another, please.
Well, so today is actually my birthday all day. And it is, to me, it's just an excuse to celebrate. And we happen to have, it is the first day of spring too. So we have a beautiful sunny day, and I've got, as you can see, this is all natural light around me, not light.
Right.
But it's, I did my movement therapy this morning. I actually made one of my favorite breakfasts. And when I told my sister, I have 3 of them, I told one of my sisters who called me for my birthday, she's like, ew, that's really gross. And I'm like, but I love kishka. It's blood sausage. That's what I had for breakfast. And it was like, it just brought me so much joy. So it's not just about saving that joy for your birthday or for XYZ day. Save it for right now. Save it for every moment that you have on this planet, because why not? So I do think I am in that happy place. And when I'm not, I have to do my own energy work or essential oils to kind of raise my vibration. But I already know what brings me joy. So I basically help others to find that same thing, because I have to ask you what brings you joy. I can't tell you what brings you joy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, so my job is really, as a nutrition therapy coach, is to help people reconnect to what brings them happiness.
You're already busting my preconceptions of what a nutrition therapy coach is. Like, I thought you stuffed my mouth full of apples and vegetables, right? Not this whole idea of happiness at the core. And by the way, if anyone, I noticed that Jorge, you can't hear me over there in Puerto Rico. So if people can't hear me, or if you can hear me, let me know, because we're not going to do a full hour where you can't hear me. So let me know. But I wanted to go into that again. Let's pause that. And let's, because I'm a positive psychology coach, I'm compelled to say this every episode. Most people think that positive psychology is 24/7 shits and giggles, Skittles running from the sky, Taco Tuesday every single day, that we're supposed to be happy 24/7. And that's not what positive psychology is about. It's really about the ups and the downs and all arounds of life, and how we
Manage them.
navigate through that. What were you going to say?
Yeah, how we manage those emotions. And that is a lot of what I do with nutrition, because so many of my clients are like, oh, I know what to do, but I just don't do it. Or, some emotional situation comes along and it derails them because they're not managing that emotional situation, and they use food as their comfort, or their exercise as an escape from the reality. And it's
Let me ask you this: if it's a two-way street, because I know that when certain emotions come up, for some people the vice is to eat, right? The vice
correct.
is to eat. But when it comes to eating first, can that have an impact on emotion?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So there's a combination of, when I'm working with clients, it's about identifying, the chicken or the egg syndrome. Which one came first? Is it the fact that you're not eating well that's triggering your issues, or is it the emotion that is triggering the eating? I had a client this week who, oh my God, I really just have to stop eating Twizzlers. I'm eating them every single night. And so I did some of the energy work to identify, like, okay, what is the thing that triggered the Twizzlers? And somewhere in that process, she comes up with, oh my God, it was my father at 8. I was eating Twizzlers in the car, and he was like, you are just going to get fat if you eat all those Twizzlers. And that has stayed with her. So she has guilt and shame.
Stuck with her for a while. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it stuck with her for a while. And of course, yesterday she sent me a text in the morning saying, oh my God, no Twizzlers all day. I haven't even craved them. So when you find that emotional trigger and clear it that's what I do with the energy work, then you don't have to think about that emotion being a trigger anymore, because it's not a trigger. We've released
Very
the trigger.
Interesting. So I am still playing with the sound. So Jorge, I know that you're my sound man over there in Puerto Rico. How's it sounding now? Is it sounding low? Is it sounding high? Is it sounding good? Is it sounding bad? Let me know. So let's just go here, because you're doing nutrition work. You're relating it to happiness. You can hear me. So that's a good thing.
Right.
You're relating it to happiness. You're writing all these books. You're woo. So you got the science and the art mixed together. What's your story behind all of this? How did you get to this point?
Well, I was one of those competitive athletes. Actually, I'm still kind of a competitive athlete, but I'm a tempered type A. So I had lots of stress going on, and I was training for an Ironman. Plus, I was on a restricted diet for a health issue, and the only time I felt free was when I was actually exercising, and all my athlete friends loved me the way I was. I didn't have to change anything. I just had to go be. So as the stresses mounted, I would just go ride more. I would just go train more. I signed up for an Ironman, and then my car gets stolen, and then there's this, and then there's that, and all these stresses from the emotional, mental, probably there were spiritual ones in there too, and all the pressures from work and the pressure of fitting into the family paradigm. It all basically just builds and builds and builds. And about 6 months after that Ironman, here I do an Ironman, and I'm high on life. And 6 months later, I'm tired and needing a nap after walking to the mailbox and coming back. So I was diagnosed with something called adrenal exhaustion, which is commonly known as chronic fatigue. And it was at that moment when I went in to see a medical intuitive, and it was when I saw her. She's like, I just see a shell of a person. You have your blinders on. I'm chasing the success, the platform over here, that carrot dangling in front of me, and I have blinders on. I am not slowing down to see the beauty around me. I'm not slowing down to do anything. I'm just focused on the goal. Well, that was just creating stress and stress and stress. And the training and the exercise became a stress itself instead of just a stress relief. And I was not feeding myself nutritionally very well, but it wasn't until I had actually been told that I've got this adrenal exhaustion and I'm just this shell of a person that I was like, oh, okay. And I literally just was like the cartoon character, flattened out on the pavement. I couldn't move. I didn't know who I was. And I really had to rediscover who was I. And it's interesting you asked me at the beginning, am I happy? Mm-hmm. That was part of my journey. Was I had to rediscover what made me happy. Movement made me happy.
Yeah.
People and talking to them made me happy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think what's really interesting is that the whole adrenal blowout, the whole adrenal exhaustion isn't necessarily something that is super popular in Western medicine right now.
No, they call it chronic fatigue, and then they give you like antidepressants, anti-anxiety, and if you're a female, typically your monthly cycle is all whacked out because it's a stress, and so then they'll say you got to go on the pill to regulate your cycle, and you're like, no.
Well, I bring that up, and I'm glad that you said that because starting in my PhD program, like I started to feel like really sluggish. Like I was working full time. I was in a PhD program. I started to feel really sluggish, and Western Med was like, "Oh, you need to push through it." Blah 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 blah. It's been 12 years later, after like multiple like hard time sleeping, but always feeling tired and just thinking I'm a lazy dude. I went to a holistic medical practitioner. She took one look at me and she's like, "Your adrenals are blown out, dude."
Yeah,
They're
right.
completely blown out. And
right.
Did they do the thing where they look at your ear and there's like that little vein that's popping out?
I don't know. I actually had a holistic doctor that I was seeing too, and he did Chinese medicine as well as craniosacral and chiropractic, and I don't remember if he did that or not.
Okay.
I really don't. But I was also working with a holistic nutritionist, and it was she that, based on some of the symptoms that I was whining and complaining about being tired and recovering poorly, and I'm tired going to the mailbox. I was actually wired and tired at that point, and I couldn't sleep. So The challenge was, well, I ended up having an adrenal stress index test taken, and that confirmed that diagnosis. But it wasn't until I saw that medical intuitive that I was like, oh, that's what I did.
Yeah.
And now I get it.
Okay. So we got the adrenals blown out, right? And we're moving back towards health. Where now? So I could see how nutrition becomes something that's very important for you, but you're not your ordinary nutritionist. You are like a nutritionist who, like, very beginning, you talked about the woo stuff. Like, where did all of that kind of belief system come into play?
Well, it's because of that whole experience. Because you have to learn. Okay, I'm one that I want to learn how I got there. So I'm at this place of complete exhaustion, right? And instead of being able to run, 20 miles, I'm tired, walking to the mailbox. I had to learn what caused this adrenal exhaustion. And that's when I learned it was emotional stress and physical stress, mental stress, spiritual stress, environmental stress, the food that you're eating stress, the stress of fitting in. All these, the pressure of working and excelling at work, it's all these pressures. It's all, and your adrenals can't tell the difference between all these stresses. It's just stress. So you mount it on, and it can work at this max output for a really long time until it's just, that's it, and it's almost like you're getting to the edge of the cliff, and you keep testing it because, as creatures, as competitive as we are, we're like, ooh, let's see what I can get away with. Let's see what I can get away with until, your foot slips. And then, being the competitive one, the slipping wasn't enough. I needed to go take a few steps back and run and just go, whoo! Oh, wait, I don't fly.
Well, I love the positive the relationship to positive psychology on this. It's not just getting your adrenals back in order, but really how can Joanna become even better, grow from that, like create even better outputs, live even happier as a result of what you just went through. It's not just getting back to the status quo, is what I'm hearing.
No. In order for me to get back to where I was, I had to learn how I got there. Then how did I get there? All the stress. Okay, well, how are you managing that stress? Well, obviously not very well. I'm internalizing it all. And that ended up being, it wasn't until I started doing a lot of the energy work that I now do, called the Path to Heal, that I was able to start expressing those things and unloading the emotional stuff. Yeah. So that I could actually get more fulfillment. And a big part of it was learning, how do I manage those stresses that I already have? Now, do I tackle the big ones and get the big one out of the way, or do I tackle the small ones and get, the small accomplishments, So that's really what I do with my clients too, is I look at that big picture and say, okay, well, how did we get here? And every single client I ask, whether it's that, half-hour discovery call, I always ask, when this started, when these symptoms of yours started, was there a stressful period in your life? Mm-hmm. Every single one says yes. And I will say that's 99% of them have said yes. And if that 1% said no, then about 10 minutes later, they're like, oh, wait, I do remember now. So we have a great ability to block it off, but we take those emotions and we stuff them into our pocket and stick them into a box and bury them so that we think that they're not there anymore, but they really are. That energy is still there.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that idea of stuffing down energy. You're a pretty aware person. And how aware were you, former Joanna, before all this work?
20 years ago?
Yeah. How aware were you 20 years ago that you were stuffing things down?
I wasn't.
Okay.
I wasn't. That was part of it, that I wasn't. But it
so
wasn't.
You just thought it was business as usual. You didn't think anything was wrong, that when it came to suppression. No, I didn't even know that was what I was doing.
Okay. It was that was just the way that I knew how to do it, because that's the way my family taught me how to do it.
Okay. So
you're not supposed to be an emotional person, you know? And think about it. My parents are both products of the war and in Europe. And, you know, it's about you, in order to survive, you can't show your emotions. You've got to be stoic all the time. So I was stoic pretty much all the time.
Joanna Stoic. I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
So
let me see if I could do that now. I'm not able to.
Yeah. Well, once you found out that you, like, what does that awareness look like when you realize that you have been suppressing? Or did you just do energy work where it's you're just naturally doing what the coach or the energy worker is doing, and you just feel yourself getting lighter? Was it that? Or did you have to find specific things in terms of suppression? Oh, I'm looking in this corner here, and I'm looking in this corner here. Ooh, I really stuffed that down. I need to work on that.
Most of mine came up through sessions of energy work with the Path to Heal work that I didn't realize I was stuffing it down until that scenario made itself apparent. And a lot of times that these scenarios come up, you know, they're triggers basically. So you're triggered by something. You can either be pissed off, you know, you can be angry, you can be sad, you can be blame somebody else, whatever. You react. It's not being loving to yourself or to other people. But it wasn't till it would come up in the energy work sessions that I realized that, you know what, I've been doing this for a long time. Yeah. This was part of that the what led me to the adrenal exhaustion.
Yep.
And I didn't know it. You know?
So if you didn't take care of that energy suppression, you just go back to adrenal exhaustion again.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So you're now aware that there's some things that you've been suppressing. What does that actually look like in terms of getting back to a healthy state now, energy-wise?
So that's going to look different for every single person.
Yeah.
But the person that is stuffing the emotions, typically they're very reactive to situations. Mm-hmm. They typically will look sad. They will look like they look like they've got the world of weight on top of them. Mm-hmm. And they just look kind of stressed and sidetracked, and they're typically not in the moment. They're not here. They're worried about what happened back there in the previous life and taking that experience and bringing it up here. And so then they're worried about re-experiencing that pain that they experienced then, but they didn't process that one very well. But they don't want to re-experience it.
I see the vicious cycle. It's like worried about being worried about being worried about being worried. And then if you ask them, what are you worried about? They're like, I don't know. I am curious about, is this work of awareness, recovery, is this something people can do on their own? Or is this something like, can they read your book and make some major headway with your book? Or is this something that it tends to, you need to work with somebody?
I would say it's a combination of both. I mean, the book that I have, it's Messages of Inspiration and Love for Every Moment. It's really helping you to connect with the love that's inside of you already. Mm-hmm. And a lot of us have disconnected from that. And instead of putting our needs as a priority, we put everybody else in front.
Yes.
And then we take, if you look at the 4 agreements, the first thing is what are your truths? Yeah. But we take other people's comments or commentary and take them on as our own belief systems when that's not really us. And so we're fighting ourselves most of the time to be ourselves. Yeah. And that creates stress because, because you want to be whoever you are. Like I am naturally an athlete. I am naturally one that will talk to anybody. I am the eternal optimist, sometimes to a fault. And even when things are, aren't going the way I want it to, I will find that silver lining because it is now just an experience for me to find a better way of doing it.
Okay.
But was I like that before? Absolutely not. I was just, woe was me. I was the victim. It's their fault that I feel that way.
Yeah,
Well,
and your poor adrenals were blown the fuck out.
yeah, and it's like, no, I allowed you to affect me, but it has to start with, pick one person that you're having the hardest time with, maybe, and they're the ones that are creating the biggest stress. Then work on that relationship and work on why is it a trigger for you?
Yeah.
But it's always easier. I think it's always easier to have somebody else to help you and kind of guide you through it. Mm-hmm. And if I had somebody years ago to guide me through it, I think it would have been easier.
Okay, gotcha.
But I had to do a lot of my own self-discovery, and that was really. And even now, some things came up, and I'm like, I'm an adventurer. I love new stuff. I love people, and I need to go be social with them, regardless if it's business related or not business related. I just got to go and like be with people. I do not like being in isolation.
Gotcha.
But yeah, and then this book is basically talk about the woo woo. I channel in messages and from guides. I've got, in this book, there's messages from Wayne Dyer, there's Jesus, there's God, there's all kinds of messages.
Wayne Dyer?
Wayne Dyer, yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting.
How's he doing over there?
He's still very chatty, and he's still really trying to help us connect with the love that's inside of us,
Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm deviating from the script now. Like, I think I missed the part where you said that you were a channeler. I've got to hear this. Where did you learn this skill? Where did the channeling come from?
So it was through my training with the Path to Heal work. That's the modality that I work with. It's called The Path to Heal. So you can even go check it out at thepathttoheal.com. And there is one dimension in there that is called divine ego, and it's really tapping into your guides. And I, as the practitioner, end up tapping into guides for that client to receive messages for them to help them in their upliftment and their spiritual growth, and help them release some of that emotional chatter that's going on in the head. But it's really. It came about that way, and right before Wayne, I think it was right about when Wayne Dyer was passing. I was reading some of his books, and then when he passed, I was just like, "Hey, wouldn't that be really freaking cool if I could channel a message from Wayne?" And that is the first message that is in this book, and it was literally the next day. The next day, I'm like, I'm so joyful and feeling blessed that although we have never met in person, we are connected here in spirit, so I may guide you and others along their journey of enlightenment and finding pure joy and unconditional love in their hearts. That's how it started, and I'm not going to read you the whole thing because it's a 3-page.
And you want us to buy it, so
yeah.
we need to buy this, baby.
You guys need to buy it.
No,
yeah. It's on Amazon and Kindle.
I'll put the stuff. We've got the stuff on the show notes right now, so you can hear the things that she's channeled from different folks. Jesus, even
right.
Jesus, was Jesus Son of God, or was he just a dude with a lot of actualization? Was there?
It's depending on who you talk to, it'll be either one. So I don't think there's necessarily a right or there's not an absolute answer for that, but. He definitely came as a guide to help us all understand
so he had
that
the Christ
unconditional love
going on at very least.
It's the Christ consciousness. Yeah. It's really about helping us tap into self-love. And I still crack up about this whole thing is, in the Bible, he preaches, love others as you do yourself.
Yeah.
Well, herein lies the problem. Do we really love ourselves? And that's where I come in with this nutrition is I help people fall in love with themselves, maybe for the first time, so that they start taking care of themselves. And as they love themselves more, then they can actually spread that unconditional love to others.
Yeah, we got Jorge that's loving the sound and just threw the self-love in there as well from Puerto Rico. Melanie from California is saying hi right now. So you're lighting a few of us up right now. I am totally hijacking the show right now with this channeling thing and you seeing guides. I'm gonna ask one more question, and
Yes.
you obviously can say no. What are my guides telling me right now?
Your guys are just saying, keep going, keep the love, and just keep putting it out there.
Okay.
And it's really just believe in yourself and let your heart lead. Let your heart lead.
Okay. Thank you. So let's go into this idea of balance. This idea of balance, right? Like, this whole idea that we have to go into seclusion to find the balance, right? And I think you set it up really well at the beginning, talking about all the different things that pull us in a million different directions that throw us off balance.
Right.
So what is your take on the way that we actually find balance, and what is balance in a world of chaos?
Balance, if you wanted to make it into really easy terms, no, it's just like I'm trying to figure out which words. So it could be some people would just rename it as that's inner peace and fulfillment. Mm-hmm. And that's what balance is, that nothing kind of throws you off your game. You can just be. And if you think of a stool, most stools have 3 legs, right? Mm-hmm. So you think of it as a physical stool, so that's how you eat, move, and sleep. Then you've got the mental, which is how you talk to yourself and how you view yourself, and how you talk to yourself affects how you feel about yourself, which is that 3rd leg, which is the emotional one. And then how you feel about yourself then affects how you eat, move, and sleep. Mm-hmm. So they're all kind of related, and you've got to really support all 3 in order to be able to have that balanced stool. Because if you overweight, let's say it's exercise, you're overweighting that physical leg and really not paying attention to how you talk to yourself, you're basically beating yourself up. Whether you're eating right or not right, you put the label on there and you're driving yourself crazy. That affects how you feel, and then you go do some more because that's going to make you feel better. And you do redemption as opposed to self-love. Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
How do you feel when you eat a piece of chocolate?
Jiggly.
Jiggly. Yeah. But a lot of people will put judgment on, I shouldn't have eaten that. And it's really, that's the judgment that sets up that mental, which then makes you feel like crap about yourself. You don't feel good. You've got to go do something to fix it. And it could be exercise, it could be eating, it could be anything to kind of lift you up for a moment.
Yeah, you know what also happens to me is I don't know why. Like I'll go and open it and I'll say I really shouldn't be eating this right now. Num 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 num, and then I'm like, I shouldn't have eaten that, and then I eat another one. Like it's like this.
Yeah, and it's so what started it? Is it how you felt in the first place, or is it this? Well, I don't deserve to feel better, so I'm going to eat this to feed that emotion.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah, probably all of the above when it comes to chocolate. We got Walter coming in from Canada today. Walter, it's good to see you. Hopefully you can hear me well, Walter. Let me know if you can't. But he's throwing out a couple. A couple wisdom bombs. He's got balance is finding the eye of the storm in our lives. Where there is stillness and presence, a self-transcendent state of being, overcoming the habit of being, our ego, sense of self. It's like freestyle right now. Getting beyond just avoiding pain or gaining pleasure. Like, so there's something much deeper here, right? That
absolutely
that Walt's talking about, and it really does transcend the physical, mental, and emotional. It really is the 3 need to work in tandem, or else it will be imbalanced.
Right. So if somebody's out of balance, what I do when I work with people is find out, well, which one's out of balance? Because if we work on the physical first, on how you nourish yourself, with food, and honor your body's needs on a physical level, that improves obviously how you eat, move, and sleep. And then a lot of those other issues start to come to the surface, and then we can actually address them then. You know? So it's really looking at it, okay, which leg is out of balance? And of course, if you at the fourth leg of spirituality, that creates really a lot more support. So it's really putting those pieces together and putting the attention on what's out of balance first, so that we can actually then address those others when it's time. Because if you're trying to address the wrong thing first, you won't get the movement that you're looking for.
Now you called it the fourth leg spirituality. Does that give it some sort of different weight to the other three? Do you have to take care of the first three before you can really start moving into higher levels of spirituality? Or, you're just like...
No, I don't think so. I think, and it's different for every single person, because some of them will be disconnected for whatever reason from spirituality.
Yeah. Okay.
And they may have had something happen in their youth that made them just basically say, you know what, I'm not doing that anymore. I am so anti-spirituality, anti-religion, anti-Catholic, anti-whatever it is, because it's not working for them. Mm-hmm. But they may feel a void in their life because of that. And so, 30 years later, then they suddenly have some epiphany, and they're like, oh, I think I need to find God again.
Well, let me ask you this: the four legs of the stool, right? And I wanted to throw in this idea of how we view and how we feel about ourselves, right?
Right.
Would you agree with the idea that how we eat, how we move, how we sleep, it affects how we view ourselves?
Absolutely.
Okay, so what is your take on that on a larger level?
They're all related. The thing is that if you don't take care of yourself on a physical, let's say you just don't sleep well.
Yeah.
So if you're just looking at the physical aspect, you don't sleep well, you feel tired all day, you're going to crave coffee or some kind of caffeine or sugar to kind of give yourself a boost, but that's only temporary. Then when that sugar drops off, then you're going to be more tired and crave more sugar, and it's this vicious cycle that creates more stress. Then you start telling yourself, like, I shouldn't really be eating all this sugar. I shouldn't be having these donuts or muffins or whatever. Yeah. But they're there. The people at the office are bringing them. I have to eat them because they're there.
My life. Yeah.
Well, this is everybody's life. Yeah. So it's about trying to help them first manage. Okay, let's help you figure out how to balance that blood sugar and sleep better, so that then we don't have this vicious cycle. Let's help you manage the blood sugar so that those sugar cravings are not as apparent.
Yeah.
And maybe it is about, okay, what is the other stressor that's the underlying trigger in the first place? Yeah. Why are you staying up at night so late? Maybe it's because you didn't take care of some other needs during the day, and we have to organize your day a little bit better. Maybe it's you're anxious about something, and you're constantly in a state of worry about, if I don't do a good job of this, then so-and-so is going to criticize me. If I don't do this, then this person's going to be mad at me. So then they put all this other stuff out there, and then they're emotional blowout. Right, and then they end up there. And my job is to keep you from getting there, because it's really not that fun.
Okay, so
does that make sense in terms of?
Oh, it absolutely.
You have to know which. It's not like one's always the first one. You have to work on the two simultaneously.
Yeah, and I think this is a piece where it makes sense to work with someone who can. Who's number one, an expert at this, and then number two, who can effectively look at sort of the four legs and say, okay, this is the one that we really need to start with. It's like a choose your own adventure, right? You cater it to the individual, right?
Right.
And that's where a book wouldn't help, because a book is just written in the rigid structure that it's written in.
Well, the beauty of this book is, let's say you had a challenging situation and you just didn't know how to get out of it. and your mind is racing 20 miles an hour. You're feeling belittled, you're feeling stressed, you're feeling, all sorts of emotions. You don't know how to get out of it. So you're going to open up the book and say, what do you need to be free of? That's the title. Look, it says, what do you need to be free of? So, sometimes you wake up feeling like the things you want are just not happening the way you want them to. Maybe you feel constrained. You're in a financial bind. Work that doesn't make your heart sing. Or you are surrounded by people who criticize and make you feel unworthy of being you. These are not unusual circumstances. But they are also circumstances that can be changed so you can feel free in your heart. When you feel free, life flows more easily. You find joy in the activities instead of the wrath. You find laughter and joy instead of criticism and feeling broken down. So you can read, again, this goes on for another page, but you can read something like that where you only read a paragraph or two, or maybe sometimes just the title, and you go, oh, okay, now I know what I need to work on is what is that weight that's binding me right now? Is it emotional? Cool. Is it spiritual? Is it mental? Is it what? And I can choose differently.
Yeah, and because of the ripple effect on the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, there really is no wrong. You can just start somewhere and supplement that, right? It's awesome. That's really, really cool.
And if you think about it, you just have to start.
And why don't we?
Because we're scared of criticism. We're scared of actually happiness. And if we're happy, then people are going to criticize us and make us feel like crap to bring them down to their level. And we don't want that.
Nietzsche's in the house.
Yeah, right. It's all of them. But it's a lot of it is the fear of success. And sometimes it comes up a lot in the energy work that I do too, is that we are afraid of being alone in that state of enlightenment. We are going to be alone in that place of happiness because we're wired to think negatively. We're wired to hold on to the crud. So if we're happy, we want to attract people that are happy.
Yeah.
But the people that aren't happy will try to chop us down at the knees to bring us down to their level.
Yeah. We'll start to repel them. Walter's quoting some Joe Dispenza on us now.
Yeah.
We live in either survival or creation, right? So that's
absolutely
that's where Walt's coming from right now.
Right.
I want to get.
But do we all really want to just survive? No, we want to be in that place of I love my life. I feel fulfilled on all levels.
Absolutely. For me, it's for me the litmus test is not one that I can measure until the end of my life, but it's my goal to be looking at my life and saying, dude, I lived all out. Like, I lived with no regrets, and that's what happiness and joy, and I pursued it, and I hit the wall a couple times, but it was worth it. It was totally worth it,
So let me ask you about this. When you hit the wall, what happens then? We have a whole barrage of emotional, mental, physical things that happen, and the same thing with spiritual. Some of us will turn to God, and others will shut him out. But what do you do in those scenarios? You can either choose to be the victim, which is that negative way of thinking, or you can choose to look at it as, I may be able to learn something from this, and I might have just learned that that's not the way that works for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you were to tell me, maybe ask me that question probably about 20 years ago, the victim-mindedness, the universe is against me type of thing. And, even now, that it'll creep up, the Mercury in retrograde, screw you, and it's not.
Yeah, right. My life sucks because of Mercury retrograde. I can't do anything about it. I'm stuck here.
Yeah, right.
Are you?
But also at the same time, there is a certain lightness to opportunity spotting, no matter where you're at in life, And so what is the opportunity? What is the truth here in me hitting this wall? Is this actually a wall?
Is it actually a wall?
Illusion?
Yeah. We're going to talk about that another time. It's the illusions. But that's the same thing like with what Walt said about, the eye of the storm. How do you view that storm? Are you looking at the light and focusing on what you want out of it, or are you focusing on all the shit that's going on in the storm? Because you can move through that storm by just focusing on, I'm staying on with my goal, I'm going to be true to me, I'm focusing on the light.
You're on dang fire. And Walt's bringing up some Carol Dweck today, talking about, well, that's the difference between a person having a fixed mindset, a rigid mindset, and then them having a growth mindset, looking for that opportunity. So,
Yeah.
Walt, you're the third host today of the show.
Thank you.
Co-host of the show.
Maybe we get him on the show sometime, yeah.
Oh, don't worry. Walt's been on the show multiple times.
Yeah.
I want to go back to this idea of emotions, because I think you've talked a lot about the suppression of emotions. And you very, very, very lightly talked about how we tend to go into this stage where we give more than we ask and receive, right? And I am curious about this idea that of love towards self first, love towards self, and where does that all fit in with finding balance, finding love for yourself?
That's almost like the foundation, because as you love yourself more, the judgments disappear. Mm-hmm. And as you love, it sounds really easy. Oh, just love yourself, self-love. That's all you need. But that's probably one of the hardest parts, is to be able to remove the judgment, because there is no right or wrong. It just is.
Yeah, now you're a nutritionist. In working with folks who are just straight up, they come in and they're like, I've got this problem, can't sleep, adrenals blown out.
Well, they don't even know their adrenals are blown out, so they just can't sleep.
Yeah. So nutrition, help me with my nutrition. How much do you work with folks on a regular basis about that self-love piece?
It kind of creeps into almost every session. It honestly creeps into every single session, because it ends up being one of the root causes of the imbalances.
So you don't have to necessarily be in their face about it 24/7. It's just something that if you start to treat yourself like a diamond, then you're going to start feeling like one.
Right.
Okay.
And that's what we're trying to do, is say, okay, and I spent an hour and a half on the phone with one of my clients the other day, and she's like, can you help me with going to the gym? And I said, well, I'm not a personal trainer. I know what I do for me, and yeah, I can kind of show you what I've done, but that's not what I like. And it took an hour just to finally, and I asked her probably 4 times, and it kept circling back to, if money were irrelevant and you had all the time in the world, what activity would you go do? What makes your heart sing? And it started with, I don't know. And so then we kept talking, and then I would circle back and say, so what activity would just make you, what would just be so much fun for you to do? Well, it's not this and it's not that. And okay, so then we keep talking, and finally, I really enjoyed myself when I was playing volleyball with the group. I wasn't that good, but it was really fun. And then she named all the reasons why. And so, okay, now we know you need to do group activities, and maybe it's time to research volleyball leagues.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to research some of these other things. But it took over an hour to basically hold that space for her, so that she could get reconnected to what makes her heart sing.
Amazing.
In terms of movement therapy, yeah.
Amazing.
And I call it movement therapy.
So you know what I call this? Flow.
Life therapy.
I call it flow, because we've been on for 52 minutes straight, and it feels like 2 minutes.
Yeah, where did the time go? I just looked, and it says 53 minutes after the hour. What?
It was just an hour and a half ago we were fixing the volume, and now you've said enough. Now it's time to celebrate the rest of your birthday. Go get that purple hair. I want you back on the show if that's cool.
Oh, I am. I'm already scheduled for 3 more.
I love it.
I don't know if you knew that. So today was day 1, and then I signed up for July 16th, September 10th, and September 17th.
Oh my God! So we've got like a multi-part Joanna love
Many.
fest going on
Many.
throughout this year. Joanna, since this is your first one, we're gonna do the golden mic with you. Golden mic now.
What do I need in my hand?
It's a visualization. It's a visualization. Look at you wanting to throw it.
I'm like, what am I doing with it?
So golden mic is coming down from your ceiling. And this golden mic, I love you. This golden mic translates.
I'm receiving, remember?
Receive it.
I have to be receiving.
This golden mic translates into every language all across the world, which means when I flip the golden mic on, the entire world is listening to the message that you want to tell it. Joanna, your golden mic is live now.
My golden mic is to take the first step to start loving yourself in seeing your flaws as actual assets. Find the love inside your heart, and everything else will fall into place.
I love it. I want you to hold that golden mic up in front of you. I want you to feel that weight. Now I want you to smash that golden mic like it's hot, Joanna. I love it. We're going to have you back. Episode 132. I'm going to be back tomorrow or a couple other days this week, but I'm going to enjoy the conversation that I just had with Joanna. I'm going to let it stew over me. For those of you who watch this live or in the replay, share this out. There was some good stuff in this that mixed art and science together. Very, very provocative stuff. And don't forget to pick up the book. The link is in the show notes, and you can keep in touch with Joanna as well in the show notes. Joanna, thank you so much for coming out today.
Thank you so much, Mark, for granting me my wish on my birthday to speak and get my voice out to more people.
I am the Filipino Aladdin. I make dreams come true.
Can I smooth your lamp?
I usually have to pay for that, but absolutely. But so here's the final question that Joanna and I have for all of you watching. So if you're feeling good and you're living life in its fullest of purpose and meaning, what is your responsibility to change history for the better? Golden Mike 132, we are out. Joanna, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Blessings to all.